All right, Coach, thanks for jumping on and doing this. Last time we chatted, we thought we were preparing for a return of the season. That is unfortunately not the case, but really, I think we're both in agreement that there's much more important things that are going on at the current moment. But what are your thoughts on trying to wrap up this season, put a bow on it, and move forward with the players really not being at the facility at all during this period?
Yeah, well, first of all, Chris, it's a tough way to end the season, but we understand that that's the health and safety of everyone in the community and beyond is paramount, and so it's a little different to wrap up the season this way. A lot of virtual meetings here. We just finished up a couple days of exit meetings and just have a few more to go, and we'll be done with that. But I got to say, it's good to see the guys in the flesh when you're meeting with them and chatting just like yourself, just sort of catch up because as you know, we spend so much time together on a daily basis and we become pretty close over the course of the year. So it's been good to, give feedback and receive it back and talk about things that went well during the year and what we can improve on. And that's what we're going to go on now. We sort of said our goodbyes to guys and we'll just have to wait and see here what happens moving forward.
Yeah, and it was really a terrific season. And I think it's one when you look back that it was all going in such a great direction. And all of a sudden, everyone has to leave the rink. And you kind of think, oh, we'll be back soon. We'll be back soon. And the group hasn't been together since, that game against San Jose on March the 10th. And I think it's kind of, hard to believe how quickly things can shift. But when you look back and when you're reflecting now over the last couple of days with these exit interviews and things like that, what stands out about this group and all the success that you guys were able to have?
Well, one of the things that stands out, and it came up a lot in the interviews, is just the quality of the group, the quality of the people in the group, the tightness of the team. A lot of guys cited, how much they enjoyed this year, and a lot of that goes back to just how they treated each other. I felt like we had a really tight team that was, it was started by our leadership group with Byron Fraze at the top of that and sort of permeated down with a lot of players that have returned over the past year or more and also new players that we brought in. And it seemed like they did a really good job as a group of, getting together early and sort of getting to know each other, and they stayed supportive throughout. So I would credit the staff with that too. There's guys all around our room from Rick Davis and Pete Bureau and Brian Erspammer that are there and they're every day with the team. And the guys just felt like it was a great atmosphere.
In terms of the leadership group, it really, I know you've said it a bunch of times this season, it was an extension of the coaching staff. What specifically about Byron Fraze, Buddy Robinson, Zach Leslie, you can go on and on. What about those guys do you think provided something tangible for maybe the younger guys and for the team in general? And how did you see that transpire throughout the season?
I thought that they had a business-like attitude, but I hesitate to use that term. I guess I should take that back because I think that guys they treated each other well, and it starts with those guys at the top. So it was more of a family type atmosphere, I guess, is a better way to put it. And when you've got someone who's a consummate pro as your captain in Byron Fraze, and he does things right every day, and he's someone that's well respected, then all of a sudden the guys are they don't really have any choice but to follow suit, but nor do they want to alter from that path because they're young men looking to find their way through the pro ranks. And suddenly they have a really good example who's a humble person who treats them well and makes them feel comfortable, not like their first year guys that don't deserve their say in what's going on our team. And so when you set that tone, it sort of strikes a chord with everyone where they want to come into the rink and they want to show up. They want to be there and be present and be part of it. And I give a lot of credit to Fraser, but I need to extend that credit to, Brandon Davidson, who's no longer with us, was just an excellent person for us. And Zach Leslie and new guys into the fold like Zach. Buddy Robinson had been here. We brought up Alex Gallant in, and there was a lot of guys that contributed to this, including guys that have been here. So I think that leadership group set the tone, but it was a tone that a lot of our guys are really willing to jump onto.
Now, it's one thing to just have a good culture in the room, and I think that's the first step, but it goes beyond that to have success. You have to be able to be consistent on a nightly basis. And one area where you guys were by far and away the best team in the AHL this year was in special teams. It was consistent. You guys really didn't have off nights very often at all on the power play or the penalty kill. And you finished the season ranked first in power play with 25.6% and on a penalty kill at 87.6%. First team in the American League since 2009-2010 season, ranked first in both. What were you so impressed about in terms of the consistency of those two units all season long?
Well, that's it. It's the consistency. It is something where I'm glad you mentioned it, because a lot of credit is due to Dominic Pittis for running the power play. He did some great work there, and credit to the players for executing there. And there's a lot of credit to both Joe Sorella and Thomas Spear, because Joe's running the PK, but Thomas is in charge of the goalies, and they're on the same page. And the goalies are a huge part of your PK. Yes, but I think, like, for all these guys, it's the fact that, did we work on it a lot? Yeah, we did. But at the same time, there was that they took a lot of pride in it. And as you say, it was so consistent. That's what stood out. It's inevitable a lot of times when you're running, for example, the penalty kill, where you're going to run into those games where the wheels seem to fall off. And to their credit, we didn't have many of those games. I don't think there were any games where we gave up 3-4 goals in the PK. Their ability to be able to rectify something, maybe if we gave one up early, to be able to shut it down from there, was excellent. And that, I think, was reflected in our standings. So we had a really consistent year in terms of making sure that we didn't string together more than a few losses in a row, and we got right back on track. And a lot of credit has to do to the PK for being able to be consistent there, keep pucks out of our net. And it's the same thing on the power play side. There are many games where we scored well 5-on-5, but we started to slow down in the month of January and February. But the power play kept going there, and there were many nights, as you I'm sure remember, where we had low scoring games, but we were the winners because of the difference on the power play. So it was pretty fun to watch. I got to tell you, fun to be a part of, and just see the guys. They had pride, and they did a great job of being mentally tough. And you'd probably circle that back around to the leadership and your ability to take a setback in terms of maybe an 0 game on the PP and be able to come back strong, you know.
And in terms of the special teams, there were players that didn't necessarily have a role in that at the beginning of the season. And then, you know, as the season went on, with their play in the 5-on-5 and in different areas, they earned more time on the special teams. You look at guys like Martin Pospisil, Eetu Tuola, Adam Ruzicka, Luke Philp, all getting bigger roles. Where did you see some development from some of those younger players as the season went on? Because it really seemed guys of the likes of Eetu Tuola and Adam Ruzicka were really starting to find their stride in February and March, and really big things, I think, probably coming forward for them moving into next season.
Agreed. And I think if you talk to a lot of coaches and management with this situation, that's one of the things that disappoints us the most. We want to go on. We all want to win, but we're here to develop. And when you see the young men like that on the verge after putting in a lot of work through the year and growing into positions and sort of primed for themselves to take another step when the heat gets turned up in March and beyond in the playoffs, to see that sort of cut out from underneath them is one of the more disappointing things about this whole situation, because that's great development for them. But I saw really a situation where we had a strong team. Like, we had strong offensive players, and those guys, you know, one of the lessons that they learned is that you got to dig and you've got to earn your spots in these places. And I think it's a really valuable lesson for them to, you know, come out of a junior situation like an Adam Ruzicka or a Martin Pospisil, where they're leaving a situation where they were in charge. Like, they got a lot of opportunity on those different areas of special teams, and suddenly they've got guys who are bona fide AHL players ahead of them who've done very well in these places. And for a while they had to take a back seat and learn that in order to be able to usurp those guys or to be able to earn that ice time if it opens up, it requires a level of compete and a level of consistency and a level of execution and practice and that effort that those are the lessons that make these guys really strong as hockey players and help them develop. It's not that we sprinkle any magic dust on them. It's that they start to understand through good processes how they're going to be able to compete and be good on a consistent basis. And you could see that coming with them. Martin had a setback in terms of a long injury, but he was coming along. Adam Ruzicka was one that we're really excited about. Like it seemed like he was primed to really keep taking strides and start to sort of exert himself with that big size and strength, and ability. And so it's a situation where we're happy with the way things went there, but it would have been nice to see them continue on. But before I forget that, I do want to sort of throw some appreciation by way of other guys. There are guys on our team like Alex Gallant and Mason Morelli, and guys like Mitch Holtz that was up with us, and guys that would dig and kill penalties against that power play all the time in practice. And, even at times in the games, they wouldn't get a lot of PK ice time. Then some of them got very little, but they kept doing it. They were learning in practice, but they were working hard and they were there. And that's part of the reason why you've got a good power play and a good penalty kill, is that those unsung heroes there. So a lot of credit to them, because I know I've been in those shoes, and it can get long on a Thursday afternoon when you're chasing pucks around on the penalty kill or blocking shots. But, here we sit. If things hadn't gone the other way, we could be still in the long playoff run, because of the efforts of guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Every practice, every meeting, it all comes together. And it's unfortunate when you look at all that hard work and you see that it gets stopped in, early to mid-March. But you mentioned in that last answer there a couple of top-end guys, Alan Quine and Austin Czarnik, in terms of their skill and talents come to mind. Those two guys, when they had the puck on their stick this year, were absolutely dynamic. And this question, I think, is kind of twofold. One, how valuable were those two guys to the team? And then secondarily, when you have guys with that high of a skill level, how helpful is it for the younger guys to see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis in practice that can help some of the younger guys like the Ruzickas, the Tulolas, and the Phillips?
I think it is valuable. I think when you talk about practice, which is a big emphasis on our development, Alan Quine's the guy that comes to mind. Like we would chat about that with younger players, about the things that he does when he's doing puck carrying drills and things with explosive speed, and the concentration he puts into it on his skating side. Those things that these guys can implement into their game, his ability to move with the puck, to be able to find open ice. And same thing with Austin Czarnik. It's a really good example for them to see guys that have been at the NHL level and had success in different ways, and to be able to, play with them and see them execute in games and practice and be around them. And I think that they provide a different kind of leadership, those guys, than say a Byron Fraze. They provide some similar kinds of leadership as well, but they're, in some ways it's more about seeing how they execute in the level that these guys are trying to attain. Alan Quine was one of the, and Czarnik were one of some of the better offensive guys in our league. Yeah. So for those guys like Godin and Phillips and Ruzicka and Tuola, those guys to understand the level that they're trying to attain is really a good lesson for them, and credit to them for helping create an atmosphere where guys, it mattered to them how our team performed every night.
Just lastly, on the player-specific questions, you did just mention Matthew Phillips and Glenn Godden. They both had terrific breakout seasons. A little bit of an injury that slowed down Phillips and didn't allow him to attend the All-Star game this year in Ontario, but Glenn Godden, of course, got to represent the Heat. How important were their breakout years, not only for the team and the development, and then where do you see them potentially making a jump next year to the NHL?
Well, obviously their contributions were huge, especially through the first 30 games there before Matt Phillips ran into his injuries. Both he and Godden were near the top on our team, and a big reason why we jumped out to a great start. And so unfortunately, Matt had a setback there and wasn't able to, like learn to go through another season at length. But he's also able to learn what, the level of commitment it takes to get back from an injury and be able to then be mentally tough enough to get back up to speed through those games. So there's always lessons in everything. And as far as their jump, like when we look at it, you think about, okay, where do you want to get Glenn Godden to next year and Matt Phillips if they're both clicking along at, close to a point per game production offensively? And I think we always come back to what position are they going to be in if they're able to move up? And it doesn't mean not just initially, but even longer term, where are they going to be and what kind of game do they have to make sure that they can play? And a lot of that always comes back down to the pace of their game, meaning that, how fast they can both skate, execute, and think the game, and how well they can compete. And so for us to get them another step, I don't think it's fair to expect them to be clicking along at 1.5 points a game, but it's fair for them to maintain an excellent offensive pace while being very competitive over the whole 200-foot ice surface next year. And I think that's what we're looking for is for both of them to continue to round out a game where they're dominant in little things like the battles for pucks and the positioning in the defensive zone, the shift length, the mentality they play with on a shift-to-shift basis, how they handle setbacks, the demeanor they have when they're on the ice. Those things that, if you're going to be competing at the NHL level on a consistent basis and any of those things are off, you're going to stand out. And if you stand out as a young call-up guy, then you'll probably be standing down pretty quickly.
Well, two very impressive guys this year in their second pro seasons and two, highly touted prospects for Calgary. And we'll wrap it up with this. A team this year that had a terrific win percentage, 8th best in the American League. What moment or win or thing from this season in your second year as head coach will you kind of remember as part of the identity of this group?
I think that if you go back to earlier in the year, and this is a game that we worked with, we live tweeted earlier during quarantine here, but it was our second game on our second trip to Colorado. And the reason why it stands out, there are actually several reasons, but it was early in the year we had been rolling and we had lost in Colorado on the Friday night. And so it was one of our first setbacks. And it was one of those tests of, okay, so if you had a great start out of the gates and now you've got a setback, is it all of a sudden you're going to hand over 3 or 4 in a row and become a mediocre team in a hurry? Or are you going to be able to reassert yourself and come out with a really good effort? And so from that perspective, we put some pressure on the leadership group. And that's our first, I think that's one of your first real indications of just how strong that group was and how much they cared. I can remember Ryan Lomberg, that was his initial injury, the dedication to our team that he showed there. We weren't sure where it was, and he was safe, but you could see that he was playing through some uncomfortability, and that a lot of credit to him. The rest of the leadership group were able to carry us through a game that we didn't play. It wasn't excellent, but we were able to get through penalty trouble, claw back, find a way to get into it, get it to overtime, and then have a Matt Phillips to Luke Philp overtime win. And I remember the dressing room, it was we were fired up as coaches, as players. We felt pretty close and we felt excited because I think the guys felt like that was a response. And when you start to respond to one of your first setbacks, as if you're saying like, no, we're going to continue on a really good path here because we have a lot of belief in what we're doing and we care about each other. That was an exciting moment. Further exciting to me because I had family there. My brother, my sister, my father were there in Colorado, and I remember that especially, that was really special for me. So excellent win for the team, and that was something that I think set the tone.
Yeah, I think it's hard to not go to that week and that stretch because it was the longest road trip of the season. It was the week of Thanksgiving, so there was off the ice, maybe a different sense of team bonding, and I think you hit it spot on with you lose Friday, the road trip that was really good overall could kind of not be as good if you don't win Saturday. And then the team gets to win Saturday. So I just, that moment to me is the one that stands out as well. And I think is one of the reasons why fans enjoyed rewatching that game here over the last couple of weeks. So, well, awesome season. Great chatting with you as always. And congrats on all the accomplishments all up and down from this season. And hopefully we can see each other soon. And best of luck here in this elongated summer and waiting to hear what is next for the NHL club.
Well, thanks, Chris. We always appreciate you putting the good word out for us and all of your hard work. And we look forward to next year.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thanks as always, Cail.
All right. Take care.